Another great edition of the Monday Morning Quarterback that you must check out at the mmqb.com. Peter back on the show. How are you, Peter?
Rich, I wish they were still the Disastros. Unfortunately, they're really, really good.
Aren't they good? They are good.
So I kind of think it's going to be a Houston-Cleveland ALCS, but maybe our two teams can do something about it. We'll see.
No, I hear you, and I agree with you. In Houston sports, I mean, with obviously Chris Paul joining the Rockets, and now, I mentioned bona fide stars in the league. Deshaun Watson appears to be all that and the proverbial biscuit, Peter. I mean, what did you think of his performance over the last several weeks and his viability to take a team to the playoffs this year? What do you think?
Well, I think one of the big things about Deshaun Watson is that, and I've said this ever since the scouting combine. I pride myself really on, I don't want to say pride myself, but I fully admit that I watch very little college football. The only college football I've watched this year are the Saquon Barkley highlights.
Yeah.
And this just in, he might make it.
Right.
So I don't know very much about college. What I know is that there's one human being on planet Earth who has twice thrown for 400 yards against a Nick Saban coach defense, and that's Deshaun Watson. And from the time I got to the scouting combine to the time of the NFL draft, all I ever heard was, "Oh well, I don't know if this guy's an NFL quarterback." I mean, come on, what is he then? I don't know what the big difference is. I do know that spread quarterbacks and option quarterbacks and shotgun exclusive quarterbacks. I understand that that's an adjustment, but we have gotten this thing into our heads that because so many of them don't really make it or have trouble making it, that somebody really can't make it, and they don't want to and people don't want to take a risk. Man, I watched some of his highlights from Clemson, and he was just a really, really good player. And I think the one thing about him is that, and this Bill O'Brien found this out right away, Rich. When you get O'Brien on the show, or when you get Deshaun Watson on the show, you got to ask him about the text messages that O'Brien, while they were both on vacation, late June and July, text message quizzes that O'Brien would send Deshaun Watson while both of them were on vacation. And Watson aced them all. And so this is not a shock, I think, to people who know him well. And I think it's, good things happen to good people. Everybody saw what he did last week and giving his first game check to three women who work in the lunchroom for the Texans. And they got a lot of damage in the floods in Houston, and he split his game check among the three of them. So this is a good human being, so I'm glad good things are happening to him.
And he gets the NBC spotlight coming up in 6 days. Chiefs and Texans, and we see the Chiefs tonight. They may or may not be undefeated when we see them on NBC next week. Peter King of the MMQB joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Ask him the poll question as a way to open up the interview in a more omnibus fashion here. Brockman, go for it.
Okay, Peter, we have some very good teams at 2-2. Which one of these is most likely to miss the playoffs? Cowboys, Patriots, Raiders, Seahawks.
What do you think, Peter?
I would say Raiders because of the competition for the playoff spots in the AFC because I don't know what the fate of Derek Carr is. What if he misses 5 weeks and you got to play E.J. Manuel? What if he may miss no weeks? I don't know. And I also think that, that offense, which, hey, I covered them against the Jets, and the Jets are supposed to have a good defense, and the Raiders just absolutely shredded them. And then the last 2 weeks, they haven't been good. Marshawn Lynch 2 weeks in a row, absolute total non-factor. So I don't know what to think of the Raiders right now. I'd probably say the Raiders, and I might say Dallas second.
So why would you say Dallas second? At sitting there at 2-2.
Because I think as you watch them play and you look at their schedule, which is a tough schedule, I think as you watch them play and you watch how good Philadelphia has looked so far and how surprisingly good Washington has looked, they may not win their division, Rich. By the end of the night, Washington and Philadelphia, which were supposed to be at the bottom of that division, could be 6-2. And Dallas and the Giants, who are supposed to be at the top of the division, could be 2-6 or will be 2-6. So I kind of look at that division and say, as usual, down is up.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the Packers at home, then they're at the 49ers, at the Redskins, and then home for the Chiefs. Those are the next four for the Dallas Cowboys. Peter King here on the Rich Eisen show. And then you look at Week 5, Peter. There's only one game on the docket where both teams are above 500. And that's the 3-1 Panthers at the 3-1 Lions. There's just a ton of teams, too, like the 3-1 Eagles. And even in the case, folks, with the 3-1 Rams, although I firmly believe they're for real, is this as a wide open, can't really even at the quarter post point figure out who teams are type of season right now, Peter?
Rich, I honestly think it usually is this way. And, I looked at the schedule this morning. There's 4 or 5 games that I absolutely positively love. I don't care what their records are. I mean, I love, for drama's sake, New England at Tampa. I mean, I don't know the answer to this, but when's the last time the Patriots were under 500 in October? I mean, I really don't know, but it's probably been since the Pleistocene era. It's just, that would be fairly incredible. So the Patriots are kind of an unknown. And look at all the explosive offensive teams right now. The Rams. I mean, this is the weirdest. I think the weirdest thing, if you had told anybody that after a quarter of the season, the Rams would be the highest scoring team and the Patriots would be the worst defensive team. That if you'd have better odds of that happening, or you had better odds of winning Powerball than of that happening, nobody would have believed you. And so to me, I think we see a lot of that every year, but I thought it was really, really interesting this weekend that Carolina went on the road and beat New England, that Buffalo went on the road and beat Atlanta, that the Rams went on the road and beat Dallas. And we're getting to the point now where, I talked to Sean McVay last night. I think one of the things he feels like is this is the time of year where you really start getting to know teams. Where, okay, a lot of things have shaken out. You know what teams to be worried about. You know what teams are out of it, but you kind of know after a quarter of the season what you're looking at. And that's why, to me, Rich, I totally agree with you on the Rams. The Rams are really, really interesting, number one. And number two, everybody thinks of them as the 2016 Rams. And, oh, my God, but look at this. Their 2 most important offensive linemen came in the offseason, and John Sullivan at center and Andrew Whitworth at left tackle. Their 3 most important wide receivers came in the offseason in Kupp, Watkins, and Robert Woods. And the other thing that has happened, obviously the quarterback is being coached much differently than he was last year. But, they have made Todd Gurley from, they've turned him from Eddie George into Marshall Faulk. They really have, when you think about it. He no longer is just the blaster in the middle of the line. He's the guy who right now, at least in my opinion, is a guy who Sean McVay wants to turn into a guy who's the same kind of threat as Marshall Faulk.
And he's doing it, man. And Gurley's about to join me here on the show. Before I let you go, Peter, why did the Bears make the move to Mitchell Trubisky, best you can tell?
It had to be, Rich. It had to be, and I have not talked to John Fox to ask him, but it had to be that the coaches think that Trubisky's ready, because I firmly believe that they weren't going to make this move as a negative for Glennon. Okay, even if Glennon wasn't playing that well, if they didn't think Trubisky was ready, they would not have done this. Now they get a long week, to help him prepare. My gut feeling is they probably told him over the weekend so that he could start to get mentally prepared. And so now you look at it and you just say, here's a franchise that is getting ready, as much as they don't want to say it, is getting ready. This is a move for the future. This is a move for opening day 2018. And they have to feel like, that Trubisky's ready, or there's no way they would have made this move.
Peter, love chatting with you. Thanks for calling in. The MMQB.com and Monday Morning Quarterback, as always, must read. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Rich.
You bet. At SI_Peter King.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app, and I'll be sure to help the NFL figure out what a catch is.